Hey guys, so I wanted to go on here and talk about the 545 babies that we stole and who can't find their parents. Those babies are probably in foster care right now, or just part of the system, right? Who knows, HHS or where. Possibly will end up in track for being adopted. And those parents were most likely deported because that's really what was happening back then. They say 2/3 of the parents of these children were deported somewhere in Central America. In 2018, in November, I was being asked to go to Guatemala to they had one lead of 2 or 3 parents to see if I was willing to go and talk to them and try and see if we could get their testimony, description of children, so that we could figure out if we could reunite these parents. I couldn't go, but there were lawyers that went, and I think they were successful in finding a very small number of them because these countries are huge and people go back home where it's unsafe. And let's remember, they're seeking asylum, which means a lot of them could have and might have ended up being killed. So, but I want you to connect and not feel discouraged and not feel like there's nothing you can do. There are many things that you can do, and what you have to realize is it's everything's connected, right? And if we're realizing anything during COVID, it's precisely that. Everything is connected and you have power. Don't ever think you can't do anything and that anger and disappointment, turn that into power and action. What do I mean by power and action? Change it by, are you paying your cleaners? Are you paying your workers outside? Are you making sure that you're tipping properly? These are the people that crossed the border at some point, were detained, and are now trying to raise a family and are part of our robust economy. So that's one way in which you can help. Vote. Voting is the most important thing you can do right now. These policies were not accidental. There was a pilot in 2017, there was a pilot in El Paso, and CBP tried to separate families, and they ended up losing a huge percentage of them. They lost track of the kids, they lost track of the parents, they couldn't match them. So CBP actually said, do not follow this policy because it's going to be a disaster. That was their recommendation. Customs and Border Protection said that to the administration, and still, they didn't have any plan. They didn't tell the people on the ground what to do. It's a disaster. If you can read Separated by Jacob Solotaroff. So what you can do is those small actions of, first, a huge action of voting, educating, continuing to speak about the tragedy of family separation and how that is a crime against humanity, how we have broken thousands of children. Make sure that you acknowledge the fact that those children that maybe your child is playing with at school, or the kids around your neighborhood that you might not know, and you might feel like, they're not our friends or whatnot. Maybe those kids are kids of those families. Because when you have 11 million undocumented immigrants in a country, in a system that is abusing them for capitalism, you have to understand what your chain and your role in that chain is, and how you can mitigate that, and how you can be more active. Get involved in your local organizations. That's another thing. If you want to send a letter to a detention center, please do so. There are families that have been in detention for over 400 days. Children their birthdays are inside detention centers. So don't feel despair, feel anger, and don't contain that. Give it to earth. That's usually what I have to do in order to be okay. I give it to earth, and then I use that energy to bring change, and to bring understanding, and to bring courage. Because what you need is courage so that you can speak up when somebody's being unfair. You need courage so that you can say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice this, and I'm going to donate this amount of money for that. It requires courage to maybe sit down with your domestic worker and say, listen, how can I support you? Like, let's go through this video. Are you okay? How are your parents? And connect, because we're all part and interconnected, and we have power. Don't ever think that you don't have a story or a part in this story, because we all have an important part in this story. And it is those little ripples, those little acts that really have this huge ripple effect in our communities. So think of those babies. I will be keeping you up to date if there's anything that we can do. We are bringing in front of the UN and in the review, we are actually making sure that child separation is spread up and that we talk about numbers and about the human violations and complete disregard for humanity. Okay, friends, see you later.